Get it going on. You gotta be on with that. You gotta be. I got that on video. All right, welcome. Finally, we are recording this after much ado. This is finally. Finally, we've got a name. Conspire to Enquire podcast.
Oh yeah.
Welcome everyone. I am one and only Sea Monster from approximately Atlanta, Georgia. Joined by the always wonderful Corvid Chaser from Nottingham, UK. Welcome. Nottingham. Nottingham. That's what we would say in the United States. So that's really good. We're really cool for that.
Nottingham, as we say in the UK.
Nottingham. My friend, because you can't say ham. You gotta say
I'm from Nottingham.
I'm from Nottingham.
There we go. You got the dialect down perfectly.
I could virtually live there now.
You just blend in.
So who's that guy? I don't know. Anyway, I got a feeling like there's a lot more things I'd have to do.
Wear a bowler hat, eat crumpets.
I don't think I've ever had a crumpet. Nobody understands crumpet. You gotta understand cricket to understand crumpet.
You're from Brooklyn now.
Yeah,
you gotta understand. I'm not doing a Brooklyn
little bit
accent.
Of Ninja Turtle going on there. He's got some Raphael, you know. Shut up, Mikey. So, yeah. So, welcome everyone. This 8-month 19th day of 2013, which I have no idea when that is. I just look at numbers. I'm just here.
Time's irrelevant, right?
Time's irrelevant. It's really,
it was invented. It was here before us.
We're going to have a conspiracy on time because,
Definitely.
I think it was invented by the man.
The man.
The man. Not man, but the man.
The man. Whoever he may be.
Whoever.
He knows what he did. He ruined our lives and gave us months and calendars. That's what he did.
So we would never have enough time.
Instead of one long day that was infinite forever.
1963, the British came along and gave us Doctor Who and saved us all.
We could go backwards, forwards, in a circle, wherever.
Be different people, nobody cares.
Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Be whoever you want.
Hey, I think he should be a woman. They need to make a woman Doctor Who. They really need to.
It'll happen.
Eventually.
Definitely.
So, I can't wait. I really want to see that. But I digress. So, basically, today's show is going to be about, we was going to do ancient civilizations, but we soon found out that there are so many... There's so much information. You can study your whole lives, as many people do. Yes. And you'll never get it all down. You'll never have all the facts, which, again, I want to add, we don't deal facts here. We try to get as many facts as we can. We don't claim to know everything. We claim to try to know some things. We're here to get you in the mood to ask the questions. We're here to try to inspire people to...
Inspire to inquire.
Inspire to inquire. Conspire. Inspire to... We might have to think about that. But no, we really do. We want people. We want you to go out there and find your own answers to the questions, because we don't necessarily know the answers. We don't believe that your run-of-the-mill scientists know the answers. So just going into everything, please do your own study. Don't take our word for it. It's like reading a rainbow. Don't take my
Go learn on your own.
Take a look. It's in a book.
Some of this stuff isn't in books. That's why you have to go and learn, though.
Hey, and if you can go there, actually go to these places.
Yes, definitely.
That's why my friend here, Corvid Chaser, she's going to take the point of this when we get into the main story, because she's actually been to Stonehenge. I've only seen pictures on Google. So...
I'm sure there's a Windows wallpaper of Stonehenge, and it's just become such an iconic picture that everybody knows what it is.
In my mind, I just see UFOs just landing on it. It's just a landing pad is all it is. So really quickly, in preparation for this show, we actually got to talk a little bit. I had a really quick, short little anecdotal story that I wanted to push past you, because you said that in researching the Stonehenge stuff, Stonehenge was just everywhere. It just seemed to be calling to you, and it was on television more, and it's not actually there. It come about when you was researching this, so you kind of had like a synchronicity with the universe of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this goes into play really well on Facebook. I actually read a really cute story, and I love this story as one of them tear-jerking stories. This guy, and it is a Christian story, which I'm agnostic, atheist, spiritual. I'm not going to put anybody else down as long as your ideas are peaceful and you got something going on that's good. Do that.
Respect other people.
Exactly. I'm not gonna. I would like to learn about your stuff and everything. And of course you're pagan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're pagan.
Yes, I am.
You just pagan, just across.
Yeah.
There's not any other.
No. There's many different blanket terms. I think pagan's at the top. Then there's little interesting.
Okay.
Pockets of different other types of religion underneath it, I guess. But
okay. So at another time, I would like to have a whole show, of course, as you know, on paganism and touch on how that relates to other religions as well. So I read this story because I don't want to take too long to do this. This story, is about this guy. I think he's supposed to be a new Christian. So he's got the fire, what they call the fire, which is great. You can do a lot of good things. And he's praying, and he says, God, just tell me, just if you're there, just talk to me, tell me what I need to do or whatever. I'll just listen and do, and he really gets into this zone place with this, and he's driving, and he gets this impression, okay, you need to turn down here. Okay, I turn down here, and then he says, go in the store and get some milk. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand. I've got milk at home, but I can always use more. So he goes in and gets milk, gets in the car, and instead of going home, he goes down this other weird neighborhood. And he gets this impression finally to stop at this one house, and it's late. So he's like, God, I can't stop here. It's late. It's a bad neighborhood, But you know what? I'm listening to you. I'm going to do it. So he goes up, knocks on the door. This guy comes to the door, crazy hair, looks like he just got out of bed. Mm-hmm. Mad as hell, and he's like, what do you want, like you would think, and the guy just gives him the milk, says,
yeah,
I brought this for you. The guy takes it, looks at him angrily, runs into the other room, and he's like, well, okay, what's going on? Well, immediately this woman comes out with a baby, and she's crying, and she comes up to the man and says, thank you so much. We didn't have the money to buy any milk for the baby because we had to pay our bills, otherwise we'd get thrown out. So, the man, of course, then gets money out of his wallet and gives them that as well. And she said that she was praying that some way would come about that they could feed their child. So, of course, the man, they say their goodbyes, and he gets in his car, and the whole story is supposed to be what God can do for you in your life and all this kind of stuff. And whether you're atheist or not or what, that kind of story can bring a tear to your eye. Because that's just humanity anyway. Yeah. But as soon as I read it, I thought, just like you kept seeing Stonehenge was something really interesting there. I'm like, that's really synchronicity working.
Yeah, definitely.
I believe, they got quiet enough and need to hear the universe, if you will. You can call it God.
Yeah.
And so did the other guy. And the two came together. And something happened. And I just believe that if more people would do that, I think more stuff like that would happen, because I don't necessarily think you have to say that that's God or anything else. That I believe that the humanity as a whole has that ability. Yeah. I think stuff like that happens in the universe. But I just thought that was something really interesting to touch on, because that kind of struck me. And you've seen some of that stuff has happened recently with you with synchronicity. So really quickly, I want to get over into two really, really fast news stories that are relevant to possibly future shows that we might have.
Okay.
One, which I almost have no information on. Apparently, I heard that technically speaking, Area 51 is declassified.
Really?
In a sense.
Yeah.
What they're doing and everything that's going on there, technically not declassified. Okay? What is declassified, though, is there are now papers that have come out under, what's it called, the Privacy Act or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Evidently, there are now papers that are government-signed papers, no doubt, that literally say Area 51 in the paperwork, which we all know Area 51's there. There's no question, but they're just saying now that we have the paperwork, and it may go further than this, but this is all I seen about it when I read about it. Technically, Area 51 now exists. We have papers to prove it.
So it's like on the map.
It's sort of
there.
Yeah,
we're not allowed to pretend it's not anymore. It's
now we can literally say that papers have come out that says Area 51 from our government. So that's kind of interesting. There may be a lot more come about from that. Of course, that could be a whole nother show on its own. The second thing, really quickly, is do you know who Elon Musk is?
Don't think so.
Have you heard of an American electric car company called Tesla Motors?
Yeah.
Well, that's the man that founded Tesla Motors.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He made two different companies. Well, he made three. The first company, he co-founded PayPal.
I see.
Which, of course, was bought by eBay.
Yeah.
And I forget how much it was. It was something crazy. He got like $2 billion. Maybe it wasn't
easily
that much, but it was a lot of money. More than probably we'll ever see. But I take that back. I will see that kind of money.
We will. They'll be stacking it in suitcases.
I just said synchronicity. I don't want to sell myself short. So, anyway, so he used that money and he made two different businesses. He made SpaceX, which is the first successful privatized space program company that I've seen. They've already sent stuff up to the International Space Station and everything. And the astronauts that got to look inside of the SpaceX equipment said it was really had that new car smell. It was really, it looked more like Space Odyssey type stuff.
Yeah.
It was because this guy, and he did it better, cheaper, faster, everything than what NASA's ever considered. So it's really interesting. I seen a picture. It showed a picture of, it said NASA communications or what, the floor that they use, like the main floor, and there's all these like old computers and stacks of books and papers and stuff, and then it said SpaceX headquarters, like glass tables and flat screens, no papers anywhere. And they were like, it was kind of like showing that this privatized company that he made way beyond what they're doing otherwise. So, and get this though, he's not just the guy that started this stuff. He did, but he's like one of the chief engineers on both. Like a lot of the stuff is straight from his mind. He's a modern day Howard Hughes. So, this guy literally could be Tony Stark. So he really could be. It's amazing. This guy's. We really need to looking in more in the future. But really quickly, just recently, within the last week or two, he's released a PDF. It's 50-some pages on a new project that he's looking into possibly making in California called the Hyperloop. Have you heard anything about that at all?
No, not at all. No.
Probably wouldn't make a dent in the UK. But this is a train that's going to go about 500 miles from Southern California all the way to Northern California and vice versa. And it's made to go at supersonic speeds. And I forget how long. It's really, really short to get someone from one place to the other. It's ridiculous. It's like 30 minutes.
Wow.
Like 500 to 700 miles or something crazy like that. It's really, really fast. And the vast majority of it's supposed to be using solar panels It's going to be electric.
Yeah.
It's going to ride on air, and it's going to be in like a tube. And it's going to be up because it's going to make from what I understand, it would make a sonic boom once it broke the sound barrier. But he's making it at a level above everything so that it said it wouldn't be any louder than commercial aircraft flying over anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's really interesting. He's got all that going on, and it's going to be earthquake proof. It's got the stands that it's all on has it all has these Z-axis like buffers to where it'll float independently. So even if the ground settles, the whole thing can float, and it'll never cause a bind in the tube. So it's really amazing, and it's supposed
to... The future is almost here.
I swear, I was telling my father about it, and I said, this really... It sounds like something from the 60s Mother Earth magazines.
It does. It's
or
very,
like Popular Mechanics.
Flying cars type of thing.
In the future, we're all going to live in mile
to
high.
The future. Totally.
Yeah, I'm ready for it, man. I want it. Totally want it. So yeah, that was something really interesting, and Tesla Motors and SpaceX both. If someone's listening to this and you haven't looked into that, go look into both of those. These are amazing companies. I would love the Tesla Motors. They're the best. They're the best, fastest, and most well-made electric cars in the United States. They say that I've heard that maybe there's some other manufacturer somewhere in the world that makes a better one. But these are like American cars. These are like the high end one is like a sports car, and it is a sports car.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It looks like a Lamborghini or something.
Yeah,
which is not American, but that's something.
But yeah, we get you.
We like our cars here. I'm waiting for him to make a monster truck.
Just an electric monster truck.
somehow.
Jeez, would that even work? How much electricity would you need?
We're gonna call it Thor because we have to hit it with lightning.
Yeah, exactly. Like Frankenstein monster being electrocuted to life or something. Hey. It's alive.
You laugh, but someone's taking notes right now that does Monster Jam. They're like,
I never thought of that.
It would be so quiet too. You could hear the cars crunch so much better because you wouldn't be hearing the engine.
I mean, like most of it when you're watching it, like they're revving up for most of it.
Yeah.
So it'd just be.
That would be one of the most unsettling things ever.
I mean, you wouldn't expect it. You'd just be sat like, oh! It's like so noisy.
It's like those stories where I've read some books where it was like fighting dragons in an arena, and they would they all have their own battle cry.
Yeah.
One kid that's a slave raised the dragon, and found out that it was the runt of the litter, and he raised it in secrecy. And when it got old enough to fight, the first time it ever made a battle cry, it was mute.
Yeah.
So it was that much more scary because you wouldn't know when it was going to attack because it didn't have, it was mute.
You wouldn't know it was coming either, obviously.
So we have a mute monster truck.
Yep.
I don't know how well that'll go over. That won't work for the little toys where you press the buttons and it makes the noise.
Yeah, the revving noises.
You just turn it on, the lights just come on, that's it. It's just like, sorry.
It doesn't even have an engine turning the key. So it wouldn't even have that either, so...
How many things we have that are totally... we don't even realize are relevant that could be irrelevant one day like that, So, but anyhow, so our main story for today, of course, is going to be Stonehenge. And we both have... We both have completely different... well, maybe not completely different, but we definitely coming from two different thoughts, and we've both studied two different things for this.
Yeah.
So, you've actually been there.
I certainly have.
What's it like there? Can you give us just a real quick?
Well, I think a lot of people are under the impression that it's not as impressive as it would expect it to be. I think it was about 4 years ago when I went. It's along the side of like a motorway, like a highway. So it's in the middle of nowhere, literally. And that is the only thing that is there 4 miles. Like, there isn't really any towns next to it. So it's more or less fields, and a lot of fields around there, they always say, like, crop circles happen more in that area because it's really flat and all that. But yeah, it's just, there's kind of like a little bit of an area where you get your tickets, and then that's it. You can just go to the stones. And I kind of like the way that they haven't made it touristy, you know, in a lot of places where they really turn it into, you have to queue to get in, you have to, you know, the gift shop is before you've even got to it kind of thing. So it's still, because it's owned by English Heritage, so it's still for the people, by the people type of thing. So it's not been taken over by any company, or, well, you can't, because there's no door to go through. You can't be like, here's your ticket, go in Stonehenge. It's like, it's just a natural phenomena, that's it. And if that isn't your thing, then don't bother, you know. But yeah, I think it was just, for me, it was typical British drizzly weather. So, you know, a lot of people weren't going on that day. So
I think I would like it.
It was just really misty as well. Yeah. So, I mean, if it was sunny, I think it would, I don't know, it just had much more atmosphere to it for me. Because when you were coming towards it, because I went by bus, it just came out of the mist, and I just thought it was really atmospheric just on the hill there.
I've got a lot of Irish in me, so I feel like I would like it there. I'm just like, you know, just a mossy, misty.
Yeah, definitely. All that dampness, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I just, you know, me with photography as well. It was such an amazing place to photograph. I was there for, I think they give you a couple of hours, and then they say, you know, we'll pick you up because you can walk the circumference of the actual stone circle, but unless it's a solstice, you can't go up to them.
I heard that they close a lot of it, or make it limited.
I'm trying to think what year it was, but it was, I think, maybe 70s, the latest, when they still were allowed people to go in there, but people just climbing on it, graffitiing on it, you know, the usual thing that humankind ends up doing instead of respecting it. But it's only just like really thin string, as you will. So if you are wanting to take photographs, it's not like there's a big wall in the way that would obscure it. So they still have respected the fact that they know that people want to look at it. It's not just standing at it and being near it. It's just the fact that people come to photograph it, so they haven't taken away from that. But I mean, for me,
there are guards and such, though, right? I've heard that there's guards during certain times of the year.
There wasn't anyone there when I was there at all.
That might be a newer thing.
It could be. I don't know.
During the solstice, I've heard that they actually guard.
I would say on the solstice, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think during the solstice, they actually have helicopters and stuff, like actually keeping tabs on it, you know, in the area. Because, I mean, if they've got such little, as I was saying, like nothing in the way of you and the stones, then, you know, if somebody's that way inclined, they'll just be like, yeah, if it gets dark. Because literally there's, I think, around the extremities of it is just like chain link fence. That's it. Yeah. So you could still climb over that if you wanted to. But
absolutely. Now, when you were there, did you feel anything?
Totally. I mean, even though it was a freezing cold day, because I sat on the ground and it was just the ground was warm to me. It usually, if you Britain's cold anyway, cold and damp, but it just felt very filled with energies to me, since it's apparently over ley lines. So to me, that is what I felt whilst I was there, definitely.
I would like to try that sometime.
Yeah, it's sure. If you actually are bothered about wanting to know about it and actually stand there and feel it, instead of just people that go there as tourists and just one photograph and leave kind of thing, I think it needs more than that, because the amount of history that is in that one area that has survived.
Well, again, it's the whole thing of just centering yourself, listening to the subtle things that you don't normally listen to. Yeah. And you might really have an interesting experience there, I'm sure. So that's what I think. I think anywhere, for whatever reason it was there, anything that old with that much history, if you were to take the time to listen, probably anywhere like that, as you're going to feel the history. You just have to, you know, just, you know, it'd be interesting, because I don't think anyone in the world doesn't know what that place is, but it would be interesting if you could have someone that didn't know what that was and just go there and could just be like, this really feels. But the thing is even then, they would probably show up and go, this is really important, you know? So I don't know how you could test that, because it would obviously be an important place, you know? So, but yeah, it definitely, even just looking at pictures and stuff, especially if you get the sun or the moon in a certain area, it just, I feel like it has been a symbol for mankind, for so many mankind for so long. If we do have any type of a hive mind or any type of a blood memory, I think we can tell that it's important.
Yeah.
For whatever reasons, more than one reason.
Yeah, just having a deep connection to it and an understanding of it, even if you don't understand.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, a little funny thing though, if I Googled Stonehenge, of course, because everybody Googles everything.
Yeah.
And when you Google like Pizza Hut or anything like that, or some restaurant, it'll come up and it'll say when it was created and when the doors open and when the phone number, all that kind of stuff. Over on the side, well, you get that with Stonehenge as well.
Well, Wikipedia, like.
Apparently, Google says that construction started in 2600 BC.
They have an exact date.
Get this, okay? It opened in 2000 BC.
The doors opened to its peoples.
So the contractor apparently worked on this
had agreements
for 600 years, right?
They signed the deeds on that day, obviously.
So for 600 years that would and there's a phone number and stuff, which I could see the phone number. I just thought that was funny though.
It is
opened in 2000 BC. It's like started doing business and get this.
They had phones there as well at that date.
Yeah, of course. I wonder if the phone numbers changed.
Flintstone phone, just like stones and rocks and things.
Oh, and get this, you got the 5-star ratings.
Yeah.
Apparently Stonehenge has a 4.2.
That's
so it's doing
5 stars.
Pretty good. Maybe not every.
What did they do to make it 5? I wonder.
Some people said the spaghetti wasn't really good.
Did they make the breakfast a bit better?
You know.
Car parking needs to be changed a bit, you know.
The rocks weren't quite flat enough for me, I just gotta say.
If they'd been a year older, I would have been so impressed.
If they would have worked on this for another 100 years when they were building it, would have been great.
I would have been knocked off my feet.
I'm telling you, man. People are crazy. So, so in your research, like I said, I want you to take point. Let's start at the beginning.
Yes.
Basically, my research that I've seen, which there's so much of, says that it was originally the outer ring.
Yeah.
And I think you said that's a little bit different, but my research said that it's an outer ring that had I guess the blue stones. It's I want to say there's 60 some of those.
Yeah, there's the sarsen stones, which are the bigger ones, and the blue stones are the
the smaller
ones, I think. Yeah.
Anyway, the number that's higher with the smaller stones was actually in those outer rings from this one archaeologist that apparently has gotten pretty big for it. How does that compare to what you?
I think I saw that it was just. I think I'm trying to think what name they give it. It's a type of mound anyway, because a henge itself doesn't actually have stones. That's why it's called Stonehenge. A henge is just the definition is that it's a circle with mounds that it can either be a burial mound or kind of moat like with something in the middle. And the 3 stages it went through, that was obviously the first. Then the second it went onto that had like a building in the middle of it that was wood. So obviously that went and rotted away. And then the third stage was, as we see it now, sort of, but with a lot more stones, because the ones that are on the top, they went all the way around once upon a time. So, as I was saying to you earlier, that things like the world wars happened and things, and bombs hit, and that area was struck pretty badly near the villages, obviously, but, you know, you can't expect everything's still going to be intact that's made out of stone, so it, you know, things got toppled and moved, and apparently they rebuilt in 2008 and moved things so that it was as it was practically with what they had left. So
right,
that's what I found.
That's interesting. It's probably really important to look at all the photographs from all phases of time because, they probably got it right. I'm sure that they took great pains in trying to make sure that it was done correctly. But, anytime in history anything has been refurbished or redone, more often than not, we get it wrong or something just, but that's a pretty simple structure. So I'm sure, clearly you can look at two pieces and go, oh, these were together at one point.
I did see a really impressive photograph that was from World War One that actually had the road, as I said, it was like a highway that goes down there. It actually had a platoon of troops marching down the side of it that was from the World War, and it was in the background, and it was still almost complete. And I was like, that's the most complete version I've ever seen of it. And it was like a proper old sepia black and white photograph, and I was like, I've never seen that in my life. That's really impressive.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Yeah. I think one thing is an agreement with most people is that it's went through different stages. It's been through at least 3 different. It's been built in different ways. What's really interesting, I think, is the numbers of the age and the different sections of being built and stuff, I found is all over the board. Like some people go all the way back to 5000 BC. Like this says, all the way up to 2000 BC. They've got stuff going on. You've got several thousand years worth of play here. I know that outer ring, this one archaeologist that I was listening to his stuff, Mike Parker Pearson, he found out that, well, see, back in 1919, okay, there was this guy, let me get his name, Dr. William Harvey, which was really hard for me to find because in American English we would say William Harvey, and the documentary I was watching had a British announcer, so he was like, William Harvey, and I was just like, Harvey. I'm trying to find
Harvey, as in like beaver.
So it was Harvey, but he just did not say the East. But I finally found it. You just 1919 Stonehenge, and you can find the guy's name. Anyway, he excavated some of the bones in the areas. Now there was lots of cremation going on. What's interesting though is he didn't feel like there was anything you could do with these bones. Of course, now we can. And his assistant, now this is what sucks so bad. His assistant actually gathered up all the bones that they found, the cremated bone fragments, and in 1935 buried them at another location with a plaque over it. And he literally mixed them all up and put them in sacks. And buried them. So now this other guy, the Mike Pearson's, he and his team have dug up those bones and took a better look at them and figured out how many people it was and everything. And to make a long story short, he feels like it looks like that each one of those stones was almost like a burial marker, and they had cremated people around, and because they were all equals, they had them in the circle for this, and already a sacred place. So now what's really interesting that I made a note of was he said that how it aligns with the solstice. He said there's the avenue that goes up to there that has the ditches on the both sides and everything that has now been grown over a lot and everything. They say it used to be more prominent of an avenue on there. Supposedly, he can tell that this was there naturally before any of this stuff was built. It was a very, very, very ancient, natural occurring thing. What's weird, though, is I wanted to quote him here. Where is it at? Okay. Now, this is where my conspiracy mind starts talking. He says, it was an extraordinary cosmological coincidence. And to me, that just sounds like this is almost impossible, but it couldn't be anything else, so it was natural. And supposedly what it was again, this has a lot to do with the Ice Age as well. The melting water.
Yeah.
Okay. The chalky dirt, soil.
Uh-huh.
When it melted, for some reason, it made perfectly parallel lines.
I found that out too, and I was like, but how could anybody ever think that?
Now, we're not scientists, okay?
No.
So we can't, but I don't know about you, but I've never, ever, ever once seen water make a straight line. Never.
It just, I don't know how somebody could come to that conclusion and think that.
Hey, maybe we're wrong. Maybe someone could show us something and be like, here's how it works. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, I went to somewhere else and I thought, you know what? This is what's really interesting is we have almost the same thing when you look in Peru at the Nazca lines.
Mm.
Could maybe, now this is just as crazy as the other stuff, but we got to get out there to ask the question.
Yes,
okay?
We have to conspire to inquire.
Think out of the box. Could maybe something like the Nazca lines that we can still see, maybe just because of where they're at, we can still see them because they haven't been destroyed by the elements. Maybe that kind of thing during, however many thousands of years ago after the Ice Age, maybe just after the Ice Age, maybe that kind of thing was happening more. Maybe that was over a lot of places. We can speculate what it was. Maybe it was aliens or something. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's why people say that kind of thing. Like, if it is so perfectly arranged, then...
Well, and look, I'm not... Anything that I can't explain, I don't instantly point at aliens. That would be the same as someone being like Christianity or something they don't understand. God did it.
Yeah.
There may be some things that God does or whatever you want to say, but I don't think everything has to be that we don't understand. We need to try to figure out, and I don't believe that humanity started at this low place and did this incline or even down and back up like this. I think, if anything, humanity might have been doing this.
Yeah.
Because right now, if we were to have a really planet-wide catastrophe, we would be thrown back to the Stonehenge. And very few people would retain knowledge, and the percentage of people that didn't retain knowledge would be so high that the knowledge would die out with the elders that did retain it. So it doesn't have to be aliens. It could be anything else. It could be higher technology that we had before history. It really could be a lot of different things. Okay. It could even be natural phenomenon that we don't understand yet. Even crop circles could be something that's natural that we don't. Every day people are finding out more that the Earth almost resembles a living organism of its own, and it has its own symptoms and its own things, and it shows us things, not necessarily personality-wise. It's not like a thinking entity, but it's almost like a living creature, like a symbiotic thing,
Yeah.
But I digress. I just thought it was interesting that there was this huge coincidence that the whole thing this predates the whole thing, that there was this natural, really old line there, presumably natural. So right there you've got antiquity beyond belief of something special being about the area anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So that just starts this whole thing. Now, now I didn't hear anything about druids or anything like that. Now I've heard in just life something about druids, but I hadn't heard anything. What kind of people, who was supposed to have built this?
I think that's the most confused part, really, because it, as you said, it had stages to it. So obviously there's been different peoples that have built different parts of it. But as you were saying, about like natural phenomena being one of the answers with the Ice Age moving it. Well, I was like, well, if people were involved, I wanted to look more into, well, how many people, how long would it take, and the amount of hours that people say it would have taken to actually put it together. It was years worth of hours, not like a week or whatever, because they just, as I was saying to you earlier, the wheel wasn't even around yet. So you couldn't just be like, let's build a cart, put the stone in it. They even tried on one program I watched, floating it down the river that comes in between, because they thought, well, if you can't get it over the hills and it's too hilly, then we'll move it across water because it'll be quicker. And they're 40 tons. It won't stay afloat. There's no type of wood that would hold it up.
Besides, I don't think there's enough water there to even to adequately the buoyancy that
definitely not. And
it would literally just it'd be like somebody jumping in a bathtub. The water would just come out. Yeah, and
that's obviously what happened. Like they were like, well, we'll put 2 boats under it, and it just went in between and just fell in because it just wouldn't stay afloat. It was turbulent as well down there. It's not just a flat stream. It's it's actually got a current. So
so they had teams of hundreds of people.
Yeah. Everything that they were trying to prove, like
pulling ropes and
and putting rolling them on, logs and different ways of doing it. But nothing I saw convinced me that it was possible to do with manpower.
Can I throw my sock in? My boot.
No, you can't. Yeah. Stinky sock. I don't want it in here.
Throw your socks at me, good sir. You're like, I'm not that kind of girl.
I don't want your stinky socks.
I don't even know what that means. It's turned into a way different podcast. No, I'm going to throw my 2 cents in. How's that?
Yes.
I did see one really amazing thing. It was a very short video. But evidently, this guy, he was doing his a paper on, and I believe it was his like master's thesis or something like that. He was doing this paper on. He got fascinated. I think it's from when he was a child. There's all these spheres, these stone spheres, that are all over the country there that are in antiquity. You might have even know what I'm talking about. Some of them are ornate, some of them have like stuff carved into them, but they're stone spheres that are thousands of years old. And he got just so compelled and learned how to make them himself. He figured it out, and it's not hard. It's just persistence, and you just I think it's just a harder rock and a softer rock, but they're both really hard rocks, and you just bash it until you get this perfect sphere. Well, it really come together in his mind when he figured out that the vast majority of all these spheres are almost exactly the same size. Literally exactly the same size. Well, in his mind, with all these large things being moved, he got the idea of ball bearings. Now, what he did was he took, of course, then they probably would have been using oak, but he took what would be, a whole tree trunk and cut a groove the size of that ball in it. Took another tree the exact same way and sandwiched it. So you've got two with basically a square tube down the center. You can set that on top. Well, that top piece, if you've got those ball bearings inside, would roll on top of those. So he made this two parallel, and he made this long avenue of those, and then he took 2 of the top ones and set it on there, and then with pegs put pieces of wood across them and made a sled.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And really quickly he found out, for one, the wood he used is too soft, so it just started to push the stone spheres into it. But they put little wedges in there of different kind of wood to try to help, because it was closing the space, so it would just stop. But they got it to work. And what's really interesting, if they were using the oak, if they had those stone balls, he tried wooden balls too, and that worked as long as you had enough of them. But it moves the weight out enough. and they were actually able to move the kind of weight that they would have. Believe it or not, they got a group of, I think it was like 20 people or something like that, on that sled, could push or pull that. And they said, you know, you wouldn't have needed anybody if they had a dozen ox. Could have pulled this.
I don't know why I never saw anybody say about using animals. Like, they would have had a lot of animals then. So,
in fact, there's evidence that they had lots of animals, because that's one of the things I found out, that there's a lot of evidence that they feasted hugely during the solstice. And that they feasted so much that they said that they found evidence of like ribs and stuff that they cooked, and they didn't even bother to, you know, they just ate the good off of it and just left the rest and just went on to the next one. And drink, you know, we can't see evidence of alcohol because that goes away. But they did find evidence, lots of evidence, that they knew about cereals and yeast and things like that. So they probably had some sort of beer that they would drink, and they would feast, these huge feasts there. But I just think it's interesting that everybody goes, oh, it'd have to be hundreds and hundreds of people, which if they're doing it that way, it would be. But, you know, if you have just a little bit of ingenuity, just a little bit, and even raising up a block that high and stuff, you know, you can raise a block just a little bit and get something under it. And then you can raise the other side and get something under it, and then the other side, and you can work a block up little bit by little bit, and then just hop it over onto the top of them. You know, I think a little bit of ingenuity. It's the whole thing of, if someone were to tell you you'd have to chop down this huge tree in one day, or 1 hour maybe, in 1 hour, how much of that time would you spend sharpening the axe? Because that makes sense, you know? Maybe instead of working their tails off and almost killing each other and having hundreds of people, maybe they figured out an easier way to do it.
Because, you know, they planned instead,
because, you know, in antiquity, everyone's like, oh, you know, great big stones and all this, you know, it was so difficult and everything. Almost all of these ancient civilizations used megalithic stones of such size, we can't even begin to do it today. So they must have known how to do it. And not only was it not that big of a deal, but it might have been easy.
Well, we're talking about like areas of the world that they wouldn't have even had any contact with each other, but they all knew how to do it and how to make these things.
Well, again, that points towards, and you know, this gets into other civilizations. There's so much evidence all around the world, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it, that there possibly was, if not more than one, ancient civilization that got all around the world. You know, Atlantis or something, if you will, some higher form of people or people that had a technology. You know, maybe they knew about, you know, block and tackles. Maybe they knew about, you know, pulleys and you know, all these types of things, and they could make A-frames and all this, you know. Again, you know, when the people that supposedly were the Stonehenge people disappear from history, I believe it's the Beka people come in after that, which is from the greater continental Europe, actually came, and like the people just kind of adopted their ways. So they think. They had copper and gold. They made tools, and that's why everyone was like, oh, these guys are cool, let's do that. And then they started doing the mounds, and instead of the old cremating way. The old cremation ways almost seem like that reminded me of like Viking type, you know.
Like well, they would have had that influence on them when they've been
absolutely,
you know, invaded by them, and they would have said to them, this is the way we do it. So
definitely a melting pot, a hodgepodge
definitely
of different stuff. But, you know, I just I don't necessarily believe that it took hundreds and hundreds of people. From my research, it says that there was within the lower tens of thousands of people for the entire island, for the whole of Britain, I guess. Was within the tens of thousands of people, but they had a few thousand people there every year for the solstice. So, you know,
word gets around. People actually spoke to each other back then, God forbid. Not like these days where people don't communicate. You know, word got around if you needed help. So
what's amazing is they know for a fact because they've got animal teeth, because they can tell from there's like an isotope or something that they can see from the water and the food that the animals eat for different areas in Britain, and all the way up north, all the way to the northern tip. They've got even people from there and animals from there. So basically, the whole the whole island, basically, everybody came from what I can see.
Well, there are other standing stone circles in the UK. It's not the only one. So obviously, it's if they knew, then they could tell others, or if others had accomplished it before they had, then they go, well, we did it this way. It's just monolithic stones and standing stones, not necessarily in circles, but actual huge, just pillar stones. You know, when they're actually in the ground, buried as well. I think that, as you say, if they're all coming together from all over the whole of the UK, then that's knowledge that's gained through different areas of somebody coming up with it before them and bringing it together. So definitely.
Definitely. And who's to say that we haven't found other stuff that you know, every day I'm sure that they're finding little clues to smaller little things and everything. We definitely don't have the whole picture. We probably never will. So we have it being built, and there's different stages. Now, we know that it lines up with the solstice, summer and winter solstice. Now, do you have any alternative idea of, was it a holy place? Was it the burial grounds? Was that, because they find out that it was men and women, at least from my studies, men and women both were buried there, the cremations. And it wasn't necessarily, that means it probably wasn't warriors, because normally they didn't bury women and men together in warrior tribes. And they had like staffs and stuff like that, and maces, like of like, it was almost like religious, but maybe not religious. Maybe it was just important people, maybe political people of stature, you will. But other than that, though, what necessarily do you think was, or maybe say what was each reason for, I guess each, like what was the reason for it to start with, the reason for it when it changed? 'Cause you said it's three different.
Yeah, well, I think I don't actually know about the reasoning for the people that were buried there, but if we're talking about druids and that was the usage for it, then I think that it might be to do with that, since there are higher, more important people in druidism. You go through stages of learning. Each period of, you have to learn for a certain amount of years to go up from bard to druid at the top. Like, you learn poetry and singing first, and then you learn, you know, it's like you go up and learn things until, I mean, the thing about druidism as well, you don't write anything down. It's just about, you pass it through word of mouth, everything. So that's why a lot of the time it's like, well, it might have happened this way, we don't know, but
it's like playing the telephone game. By the time it goes through 10 people, it's a different story.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, definitely the solstice part, but I think it's just heavily, because if it's used as a calendar, and back then people didn't write things down, so they would have to rely on where the sun was and where it would line up, and that's when they would collect crops. That's the main thing. If they can't collect crops and know when their cattle and sheep or whatever are going to have their young, you're not going to live through the winter, because you're not going to be able to feed yourself. So I think that's the main important part of it, that which people don't pay attention to now, like learning when the earth is going through the phase of what it's doing, and just being in tune with that. And that's the important thing back in those times, that everybody had to know what time of the year it was. And even though everybody goes to the henge at summer solstice, nobody was there in the summer solstice. Everybody was there at the winter, because you would celebrate the sun coming back. That's the whole point of the solstice. And the summer was more like nobody was in that area because they were out busy celebrating with all the food and eating somewhere. But during the winter, it was more of like a ritual, if you would say.
That probably would have been a welcome thing to everyone bringing in the livestock. Everyone, you know, instead of bring your own beer, is bring your own cow or pig, and
we were saying about people coming from all over the place. That would be a welcome invitation. Like, come from one and all from everywhere, and that would probably be how word would get spread.
It would almost be like the Burning Man, like what we have here in the States, the Burning Man with the big festival. Everybody just, and it's in a horrible spot. It's difficult to get there, everything, but everybody comes together, and it's just this huge thing. Art, dancing, music, food, and
same kind of thing.
That's the kind of thing I get the impression of. Now, you're talking about how they would celebrate the sun coming back. That seems to be a really, really, really prominent thing back in antiquity that, like you said, we've really lost now. Like, it used to be, I think people understood, what is it? What's the right word? Astrology, if you will, way better, and how fundamentally connected we are to the alignment of the moon and the sun and where we're at and everything. It's something we've really gotten really far away from. It seems like everybody in antiquity, like almost every culture, the sun was sacred.
Yep.
Which some people can say, sort of like Jesus and the months and the 12 disciples.
Just change one letter, U to O. You've got the same thing.
It's really easy. It's really easy to say that. Again, we're not trying to step on anybody's toes.
No,
but it's true.
It makes sense if you look at it.
It is true. Not to mention that there was like 15 other guys in history that have the exact same story as Jesus, that predates the story of Jesus. But anyway, I digress.
That's another time.
There's a lot more to it than just that. Not to say I don't like Jesus. Jesus is groovy. I think Jesus as an image, as a symbol, as a what would Jesus do is awesome. You know, because
he was a cool dude.
Generally speaking, Jesus would do some really cool stuff. He was the
dude. You talk about dudism. He was the leader of dudism right there.
Dude.
Just dude. Jesus was a dude.
we've got to see Jeff Bridges as Jesus, like absolutely Jesus being Jesus. Anyway. Dude. Anyway. So all this was, you know, I feel like people were more in touch with the earth, with nature, with how everything worked. Everyone was just happy to have made it through the winter, and that the sun was coming back, because it's almost as if we're not sure if it's coming back this time.
Yeah,
it usually does right now.
The sun, like waiting for it to come over the horizon, and when it did, it's like, yeah, we can live till another 6 months.
Yeah, another half of year will happen. So that tends to go on for a couple hundred years at least. Now, in your notes and things, what's the next step of after that? Was there, because they obviously had those, does your notes even say that, from what you've seen, that they had the parties and all that kind of stuff, or did your stuff go a different way?
Well, after that, as we were saying, I mean, if things weren't written down, it's hard to know, but I think there just was a lot of assumption going on. But as I was saying earlier, up until the point of, 70s-ish, you weren't allowed in the circle anymore because people abused it. So I think that's the last thing I could find, really. There's like a big gap in between that part, though, like people using it for literally like their own version of Woodstock, if you will.
Yeah, that's the impression I got as well.
Yeah, and before that, I don't actually know. It's just like a big gap of it. What, did it just stand there? Did people just give up going there? There must have been a time when people thought, this isn't working for us anymore, let's not do it. I don't know. It's just strange to think that someday somebody started passing on the information of like, well, let's not do that this year, and then less people went. I don't know. It's just strange to think that way of how it ended up.
It probably, at least from the stuff that I'm looking at, it probably was the influence of how I said like people from Europe, from the greater Europe was possibly coming in, because one thing that I wrote down that I thought was really interesting, they were talking about the Beaka people. There's the Amesbury Archer, which is a complete skeleton with over 100 items that was buried with him, and they can trace him back to like the French-Swiss border.
Yeah.
But then there was other people. It's almost like he grew up there, but then migrated over to there. So we get this sense of migration from the surrounding areas into there, and like I said before, he had copper, he had gold. A lot of the other people that seemed to be because they weren't. It's when they started burying them in mounds and stuff.
Yeah. And
not everyone was equal. I think people probably thought it was really cool that they had this copper, they had this gold, they had these tools that were fine and amazing. And I just think it was the cool kid moving in the neighborhood with the cool toys. And everybody quit playing with the sticks and stones and started playing with the cool toys, per se.
I think a connection I made myself as well, going down south to Hampshire and seeing some of the other sorcerer stones. And what I saw a lot of the time was there had been stone circles in that area. And Arthur Lund's books speak about they used the stones themselves to build the foundations of churches. And I think possibly what would have happened as well was it was a religious influence of fear-mongering of not doing it anymore and changing it, because a lot of the time they would do that so that they'd think, well, our religion's still a bit like paganism and you should believe in what we believe. And that's why we've used your stones in our buildings, but in their own way, it was like, well, we're walking over you, we're using you to move forward. It was just, because you can still see them now. There's like giant stones in the floors of churches and in the foundations of houses. They're just used as building blocks now.
Absolutely. And almost all ancient structures, well, I wouldn't say almost all, but lots of ancient structures are built on the remains of pre-structures.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So that's what I thought as well, that it must have just been the natural progression of how religion changed people's mind about things.
So originally... So what, in your opinion, was the original religion? So obviously it would be the Druids originally, but so what kind of, coming up to today, what do you think the religion, like what religion come in to superimpose?
Well, I think Romans, right? Obviously, were coming over, and that would have been happening around that. Would that?
I honestly can't remember.
I would say
Possibly.
that, as much as a history lesson as I can give here, I would say that it was probably because they came and they were the ones who divided up the UK and gave the wall that gave Scotland and the wall that gave Wales and divided it into three, which is still the way it is now. Before that, we're all united as just Britannia. It was just the whole of Britain was together. But
which probably should be thought of more so today as well, but...
Yeah.
It's like the North and South in the United States.
It's just why does it exist? It doesn't matter.
Them damn Southern people, them damn Northern people.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're all in the same island.
Yeah.
Can't we all just get along?
We're kind of surrounded by water people. Come on.
Yeah. So. Can't go anywhere. Yeah. But I would believe that, they had a lot of great inventions, but at the same time they changed people's way that they thought. And imposed a lot of ways to think as well. So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. So now this may show my ignorance, but like, what's the name for that religion? I mean, like,
well, they did bring Christianity. It was.
I mean, is that Christianity?
Yeah, yeah, pretty sure. Without looking that part up, I'd have to find historically if it was. Another type, but it was beginnings of, that's for sure, that must have had foundations in different areas that they came from, but and
that kind of stuff changed over time anyway. So I know that there was a lot of, just like it seems like that's a really common thing there's this religion, then the new religion comes in, adapts half of the stuff from the old religion, so that then people still feel okay with the religion. It's just like Christianity. Christianity superimposed its dates. It's December. You've got Easter. Hell, Christianity, we eggs and bunnies and Easter, and trust me, it's all about Jesus.
It's just Ostara, which is the pagan holiday, which is the fertility holiday.
Hence rabbits
and eggs.
Eggs.
Because it's when nature is giving birth to baby animals. That's basically it.
That just makes so much more sense to me. So definitely, these religions have superimposed over. And December 25th, is that not also a different?
That's Yule. It's just Yule in pagan holiday, which we just celebrate a Yule log, which is from a pine fir tree, which is a Christmas tree, which is used now. And
so Christianity really ripped this off.
Yeah, if I went through, possibly if we do a paganism, one, I'll go through each holiday and just easily be going, well, yeah, this is how it started, and they just slightly changed it so you wouldn't notice.
Gotcha. Besides, even now, it's even changing anymore. Instead of worshiping Jesus during Christmas anyway, we worship Santa Claus.
Yeah, so another guy with a beard.
Just another sees you when you're sleeping.
Yeah,
he knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. Who does that sound?
Yeah, it's very omnipotent. Yeah,
easy for you to say.
Yeah,
It's not been the day for talking for us.
No.
Yeah, we definitely need to do a pagan thing like that, because I would actually like to know a lot more about that. But, sort of winding down to the last bit of all this, I really think that to really know or to get our head wrapped around the idea of Stonehenge and other things, and like you said, the ley lines, there's a lot of other information that we didn't even have time to really get. There's stuff that's about ley lines and connected to other places and lines connecting.
I actually found a map that had all of the going across the UK all the way to the edges, and I was like, oh, okay. I felt really stupid that I didn't know it, but it's obvious when you look at it. It's like they all aligned themselves to that. But again, how would people of those times know that?
Right. There's a lot of sacred math involved, and there can only be one of or a combination of maybe several different things. Either they were really, really good at math and they had some way to tell where things was from the ground.
Yeah.
Or two, they themselves were able to get into the air or some way to be able to see from high above. Or thirdly, and most people think the most crazy thing, is that there were other people involved that were either a different civilization, maybe a parallel civilization of human beings, which could very possibly be, or a cousin of human beings, possibly from somewhere else, that worked in unison or kind of, traded little things down. Because, a really good example of that is, I don't know how much you've watched of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Not too much, but school me on it.
Okay, and trust me, everybody, we're winding down. There's not a whole lot left. She's got to go to sleep. Any second, she's just going to start drooling and fall over. It'll be great, trust me. Need some of this coffee. Pancakes. Anyway.
Pancakes.
So there's this episode, right, of Star Trek: The Next Generation. They're observing a civilization on another planet, much like ancient man. They can build things. They have a lot of superstitions. They're really into their planet, like we were in the Earth and everything and all this. For all things considered, healthy people.
Yeah.
Well, the prime directive when it comes to Star Trek is that any civilization that they might find, that predates or is not technologically advanced enough to be able to go to the stars themselves, or at least get off their own planet, they don't have any correspondence with, because they know they haven't wrapped their brain around the idea of leaving their planet.
Yeah.
So all that being said, and please nobody make fun of me for making analogies with Star Trek, some of the greatest scientists alive right now will quote Star Trek stuff. It's the kind of stuff that got them thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
Every good idea comes with fiction first. We have
Because it inspires people.
Something.
They're like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. So, yeah.
So don't ever make fun of a nerd when they have some crazy idea, because those nerds turn into people like, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all this kind of stuff with these crazy ideas of everybody having a computer in their house. That's dumb.
When's that gonna happen?
Nobody needs computers. The only people that ever need computers is huge corporations.
What use does the internet have?
We've come a long way to end up at Angry Birds.
Yeah.
And Fruit Ninja.
Was this what we wanted, really?
Oh, it's almost like Stonehenge and now hippies spray painting,
yeah,
the same thing.
Same kind of thing.
It is. So to make a long story short, they, while observing and studying these people, accidentally hurt one of the guys through some, I forget why. To save his life, they have to beam him aboard the ship.
Okay.
He wakes up and he's on the ship. And he meets the captain.
Yeah.
And they put him back down. Well, they try not to say very much to him. They put him back down. Well, he ends up telling everybody that he met God, the Picard.
Yeah.
Because it's Captain Picard. And they, like, this whole religion starts from the Picard.
Oh, I see.
And it's such a nice little analogy to how things could start if we had either a breakaway civilization that we didn't understand, like the cargo cults that we have now, where they literally build planes out of straw and worship these planes because they had beanie weenies and stuff, and they want them to bring these cans of magical food back that they can eat from World War II, and they people literally think these are gods.
Yeah.
The same way. So Picard ends up bringing that guy back, and or it might be someone else, and they try to worship him. He's like, no, stand up, don't bow, and all this kind of stuff. And it was like pulling teeth to try to get these people to understand what was going on. And the same could be said even about us even today, let alone back then. If there was a civilization that was studying us that could have seeded even 1% of any of this stuff, maybe the ancient people built Stonehenge, maybe all this, but maybe they found an excavation line that a ship come down and in 5 minutes went across, in some type of electromagnetic line alignments of the earth that it made sense to them. And then these people come along that are banging stones together, and they're like, oh my God, look at this line.
Yeah.
This is cool. We've got to do something with this, So even if it was that little 1% worth of throwing it in there, all of our antiquity could have possibly been manipulated, at a base level, either, from somewhere else or from, what if the Atlantean civilization, or whatever we call that, or something else maybe it was called, was really far advanced. And maybe they were isolated for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, and maybe all the other people lost all that civilization.
Yeah.
Maybe they got back down to banging stones together. So you'd have this really uneven thing going on. And I think if you think that there's either an uneven thing with humans and cousins from another planet, or humans and more advanced humans, stuff actually starts to make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because there's this really weird, why is the older stuff more advanced than the newer stuff?
Yeah, like jumps in technology, and then it isn't there, and then it is. And
you've got these huge stones with littler and littler and littler stones on top, like we were forgetting how to move these megalithic things as we built up. So, basically, in the end, I'm not convinced that Stonehenge and possibly almost every other truly megalithic structure in the end didn't have some sort of, I don't want to say it's aliens, I don't want to say it's a higher civilization, but I just think that at a base level, we're not always thinking out of the box enough to really, maybe something that we're not picking up on. Again, it's the whole thing. Let's not let the science become a religion.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's be able to throw it all the way in the trash. Just everything's different tomorrow. You know, that's why, like when we were studying for this, I wanted to find the craziest, most lunatic fringe thing I could find, just to get that separation of here's Nova presents Stonehenge. Took a rock, put it in the ground, everybody, yay, there's thousands of people built it, and blah, 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 yay.
But it seems people just keep taking that same thing. It's like, well, if they did it, well, I'm going to try it again. Like, as I said about that guy, Wally Wallison, who got, like, fulcrums and was like, well, I can do it as one person. Well, so what? What does that prove? Like, so you're telling me one person built Stonehenge? That sounds even more stupid than 150 people building it. But he seems to think that that makes sense.
I guess maybe kind of in closing, and maybe we can both agree on this, there just seems to be so much mundane drivel about it all. And for some reason, it still weighs heavy on us. Almost like, no, you haven't figured it out yet. Keep trying.
Exactly.
I get that impression. Like, no, there's stuff about this. I can just feel it, and I've never even been there.
It just seems way too obvious, and I don't know why we're not picking up on it as well. Like, it's very. I
think it's really simple.
Yeah, because they're just so freaking big. Why can't we? Like, it's not like some small, intricate atom-based life form that we can't figure out. It's like just giant rocks, man. Why can't we just go? Yes. That's it.
That's a new T-shirt. Giant rocks, man.
They probably sell it at the gift shop at Stonehenge. Copyright it.
I need to make a line of shirts that it's just the under the copyrighted by things my British friend said. It's just like,
there are many.
Just sell them in America. We would just eat them up. So it'd be amazing. So, is there anything else that you'd like to add in closing? Just, if you get the chance, you have to go there. It's just one thing that you have to experience, really, because photographs I took hundreds of photographs that day. Absolutely.
Giant photographs, small, for every color I could imagine, and they just don't all do them justice. I even took videos, and again, it still wasn't the same. So, just experience it, you know, and don't be one of those that's unimpressed. Because that's just not right. Yeah. It's history. Thousands and thousands of years of history. How can that not impress you?
Try to do your homework on it too, you know. Try to, anybody that's going out there, read up on it first.
Yeah.
You know, get some of the you know, go, like how I said, go the lunatic fringe. Get the craziest stuff, and then get what they believe is the tried and true tested things, and really run the gamut.
Definitely.
The whole, you know, because only then can you make your own conclusion. And even if you don't want to conclude anything, like you said, go there, sit down on the ground, appreciate it for what it is, because no matter what reason is there, no matter how they did it, it's amazing.
Yes.
It's something that human beings absolutely can take as something sacred, no matter what religion you are. This is just something really awesome. It's just like the pyramids. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what's going on. This is something way bigger than you, and it will be here thousands of years after you're dead.
Yes. As we were saying, like, houses these days are expendable, built of really rubbish brick, but yet they've outlived thousands of generations. So
yeah, I think the last time I heard, the only thing other than like the pyramids, the only thing at the time that I heard about it that would last that long, just from the pure size of it, is the Hoover Dam in America. Yeah, because it's like. The walls, I want to say, are like 20 feet.
I guess it has to last, so.
Yeah, well, I think there's parts of it that, technically speaking, aren't even completely cured yet. because the cement is still curing because it's so thick. They knew it was going to take so much time. It was literally going to take tens of years, into the future for it to really solidify as much as it will.
Yeah.
So they say that 1,000 years from now, that might be one of the only thing, or something like it, because I've heard, aren't they building, or they've built a much larger dam, like a huge dam in Japan or somewhere like that?
Yeah, it seems.
Or it might have been China.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I don't know if you heard about, but they evidently, and I don't know any of the details, but evidently they flooded like thousands of miles of sacred land and stuff.
Jeez.
But it was, if I remember right, I don't know if they're done or not now, but supposedly I think it was supposed to be the biggest dam / power station that's ever been built.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that and the Hoover Dam, it takes something like that. There's literally 20, 30, 40, 50 feet of solid concrete, cement, whatever it's made out of. It would take that, just like the monolithic stones.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely. Well, hopefully one day I will get out there.
Well, I did do a vlog of it, if you wish to watch it someday.
I have not watched it. I need to... That didn't come up in all my research.
Oh, dang it. That didn't come up when I was watching idiots trying to build it, and,
I want a video of you trying to build it.
I'll just get dominoes and be like, here I go. Eh? I built it! Hooray! And they'll knock down. I'm like, oh, fail.
I feel like there's a Spinal Tap Stonehenge joke in there somewhere. So
yeah.
You have to build it with Spinal Tap playing in the background.
Yes, yeah. It's a new music video.
I think we have a viral video coming from here with that one. Definitely. Definitely. I'll have to watch that, because that, for the time being, that's probably as close as I'm going to get to getting out there.
Totes.
So I've got to get Not Afraid to Fly, and more so not afraid to spend the money that currently I don't have.
Well, this is why so that people can visit the places I do and be there with me and see it through my eyes. That's the reason why I do them.
Definitely. And I think when this is posted, I'll definitely have a link to your channel down there if you'd like. And currently, I really don't have anything. I've got stuff in the works. I've got a channel that I was working on that I don't really want to say yet until I get some new stuff on there. I'm wanting to put up some art stuff and possibly link that to an Etsy, because if you can't tell from the background, I've got a Drew Struzan poster hanging up of Hellboy there. I am an artist, so that kind of helps me in this free thinking of all this kind of stuff.
Creative thinking.
So everybody check that kind of stuff out. Should have links to all that.
I'll do it as a video response. When you do video responses to YouTubes, and then you can link them that way.
I don't know. I'm just a monkey doing all this stuff. I don't even really know.
I know on the YouTube channel things. I'll do it as a video response to the Stonehenge one, and then they'll be connected.
Ah. Yes. I don't know. Sounds great to me. I'm just a monkey throwing poo over here. Yes, Michelle, and we have no idea what we'll do next time.
Tune in to find out.
So whatever it is next time is going to be really, really cool. So that'll happen. I should just and when we know, I should just put a notation right here.
Maybe it'll end up being the paganism one. We keep talking about that, so
Yeah, possibly. That's definitely in the top 5. Definitely. Cool. All right. Well, everyone, please comment, rate, subscribe, whatever that is on this brand new channel. Yep. This is the second video we're going to have out of this. Please come back next time. Hopefully we'll continue to improve and get everything even more streamlined and worked out. And probably every time we do this, try to have more and more facts. And probably try to have her less late sleepy time as much as possible.
You can see it's like midnight from the window here. There's no sun.
She actually just lives in a cave. She's on the moon right now.
How do you not know that? I tell you. I am
conspiracy.
Transmitting these from my little hut that's on the moon and nobody knows.
She's actually a hologram.
Yep. I think we discussed this. I'm not even real.
That is the way all of this is going. I'm real. You're a hologram. You're the man somehow.
The man. You know, like a Truman Show where he's in the moon and he's controlling everything. That's actually what's happening. Then the world just implodes because we just cracked the code of life.
I gotta do Keanu Reeves. Whoa. I think that's it, folks. That's all we've got. So we will catch everyone the next time. See ya. Come back soon. Leave a dirt cheap.